Hello there. Oh, hello?
Hello?
Okay, yeah, there we go. Now I can hear you.
Excellent. Excellent. How goes it?
It's going pretty well. Welcome back to the stream.
Thank you. Thank you. I had to step away for a moment. Yeah, the music might be a bit loud.
Oh, no
From the
worries.
browser.
Whoop. Full screen is... Maybe I'll just zoom in. There we go.
Yeah. Not seen that one. That's
Hmm. Can we get anything larger than this?
I guess not.
Let me reset to 100% zoom, and then I'll try the full screen button again, and maybe Chrome. Maybe Chrome. Try that out real quick.
These size scalings are fun to deal with.
No luck. Oh, and that's quite loud. Okay. That's all right. We'll do our best to... And zooming in also is not working out for us here. Okay. All right. Well, I guess the old standby here is to do Windows++. However, it makes it a little difficult for me to see chat. So I'm going to try to nudge this over here.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Okay.
That'll work, I suppose.
Yeah, it's pretty inelegant. And unfortunately, this also means that I can't see my interview questions. So I think I'm going to have to sort of administer a self-interview here. If I just send you the questions, I'll just sort of trust you to answer these in order.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Cool.
All right. So the first one I remember well enough, which is how did you decide on what you were going to make for the game?
Yeah, so I was at work when the jam question was submitted, so I didn't get a chance to. So I had a lot of time to like brainstorm while I was working on other things, and my sort of immediate thought was I did not want to do the sort of you have a game where you control like two characters at once, because I figured a lot of people would be doing that because it makes a lot of sense. So I was like, I'm gonna try to do something else, and so. I don't know why, but my mind just jumped to the idea of like tying the player's HP to a certain value or like to the environment, and so I had a bunch of different like ways of doing that, and then this was basically this game was basically the way that I could do this in the 48 hours. So these are sort of like the little introductory levels where things get introduced, but it picks up and gets more interesting.
I figured. All right, so just first of all, really quickly, I just want to mention Noxim. Thank you so much for the subscription. I'm so glad that you like the format. I really had to contrive things. You should see what my setup looks like to get zoomed in on this game, but we made it work, and I've got chat, and as long as HankBank is okay with self-administering the interview questions, I mean, should I refer to you as that, or do you go by? I see, like your name on here is Psy Guy. Like, what alias do you prefer?
HankBank's fine, or you can just call me my actual name, which is Zach. I have too many of these names at this point.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll stick with HankBank for sake of consistency, because that's how people would see your name on the Discord.
Yeah.
But yeah, so here we go. We've lost our HP, and now I see. So those things are like meant to represent. It's growing larger. I remember this from your last jam game, where you had a very good way of building up the understanding of the mechanics level to level.
Yes, I don't know. I think I like trying to do that because I think it's a really fun and interesting problem to solve. Because if you sort of like use your levels as the tutorial, you not only do you make content, but you don't have to make a tutorial that way because the levels teach themselves sort of, and it's more fun than reading generally. It's of course a little bit more challenging, but it can work out really well if you do it carefully.
Yeah, okay, and now we got a real challenge. This is the first one where I feel like I have to really apply what I've learned so far.
Yes.
But yeah, I leave the tutorial questions in your hands as to when you feel it's appropriate to just keep talking about this one versus interject with your own anecdote or just go on to answering the next one.
Oh, sure. I guess that's all I can say about tutorials. So the next question is, what was your development process for the game? So that's a great question. Seeing this, so this was the third, specifically, it's third GMTK game jam that I've done. So I've done it for the past 2 years. So I felt like I had a pretty good sense of sort of what was supposed to be done when, in order for everything to be done on time. So I did sort of follow that's the same sort of process where sort of ideate and get the idea going for the first hopefully, and for like the first few hours, and hopefully start building something on Friday. And then I feel like, at least for the things that I make, I feel like I have to have it like more or less playable at least halfway through, or else it's not going to come together in time. So I had a rough version of this working, and it looked like garbage because I hadn't done any art yet. It was all just placeholder stuff. About halfway, like after 24 hours since the jam started, and then from there I just did all the art and made it look better, and then added the sounds and little polish things, and did it that way. And now we come to the twist. Yeah.
Yes, I see. And as Keikaze comments, oh snap, this just got really interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
So I like, when I first thought of the idea, I originally had the concept of like, okay, so you can, so now you can kind of see a little bit more where the theme from the game jam is coming from. You're now like tethering yourself to these different blocks, and so when you take damage when you're connected to them, they'll actually alter their size. And so this was sort of what I was thinking of very early on, but I didn't get to doing this part until later, and so I was like, well, let's just see how many levels I can come up with until you get the ability to like shoot a laser and change what you're connected to. I actually was able to make a lot more levels with just that than I was originally anticipating, which ended up being okay, because the individual levels where you have the laser ended up being a lot more complicated to design than I was originally anticipating, which was really interesting because I was sort of figuring out the consequences of this weird system, but I did not have as much time as I would have liked to like dive into all the different weird consequences, but I think I got some marginally interesting ones.
Lemophius in chat is asking what game engine this is, but it's Unity, right?
This looks like Godot and Unity at the same time. Yeah. So this is in Unity, but I was considering using Godot for this, but I just felt slightly more comfortable, like, publishing it with Unity. So I was like, I'll just go with Unity for this. But having done a lot of work with Godot recently, I kind of did a lot of things similarly to how I would have done them in Godot in Unity. So
yeah, I gotta say, I don't know if we're just thinking on a similar wavelength, but for as much trouble as I've had with puzzle games on this channel as any followers will attest, I never find myself stuck on one of these levels for long. It's got a really good progression curve.
Yeah, thank you. It's something that you just like have to tweak a lot. Like all these different like scenes in Unity are named, whatever number they are in a progression, and I've had to like change what number each one is so many times. Because I'm like, no, this one actually fits better. Or like I'll start making a puzzle, and then I'll realize, oh wait, there's actually an easier version of this puzzle that I could make. And I just make a puzzle that goes before the one I was originally making. And that happened a lot when I was making these, where I was like, wait, there's a simpler version. I can make so now then I have 2 levels to get about that same idea, and so then they're like sort of naturally next to each other in the order, which ended up working out pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. Claybro says, someone smart told me the hardest part about coding is naming things. And yeah, when you make a level and it's like, okay, so this is level 1, and then it's like, well, actually it should be level 2, and then do I rename it, or do I just have level 3, 5, 1, 2, 8, 7 just out of order?
Yeah, the naming thing is very difficult. Like I felt like I should have named them whatever like the concept of the level was, but then those get like too long of names, and then things get confusing, and then so I was like, I'm just gonna try to keep a track of it in my head, which was doable for the few amount of levels that for the 21 that are in this game. But yeah, if you have more levels, that of course instantly balloons into something that's much harder to keep track of in your head.
Yeah. Surf to Webs mentions that they had the exact same problem where level 4 ended up. The first level you ended up being is level 1. The first level you made ended up being level 4. I'm not surprised, because I think that happens all the time. Like, the first time that you are building like a sandbox level and just getting a feel for like, okay, I have an idea in my head, how does this game actually play? Oh heck, that's really hard. That's level 4. A lot of the time, the first level you make is actually like the last or second last level of a game.
Yeah. To restart.
I do need to restart on that. Okay. Lemofia says, named levels L1, L2, and Unity. There's a bug. If you want to rename level to a name that existed, you have to restart Unity. Oh, that's brutal. Yeah, Kaze is saying it's really hard to start designing levels to make good difficulty gradients. Absolutely. Like, I think your approach of taking a game, taking a level, and then realizing you could make a simpler version of it, and then just injecting that just before is like great. That has the like, it puts the solution in my mind. It makes me start thinking about like, okay, here's how to solve this level. Here's how I clear this problem. And then by the time I actually get to the harder level, it's kind of evened it out. Like, what might have been a difficulty jump before, now the fact that like the level that you injected before, in between the two I should say, kind of adds a middle step so that it smooths it out really nicely.
Yeah, exactly. I like trying to do that as much as possible, because you get to say you have more levels in your game, and then it's generally as if you Baba's U vibes versus that's sort of one of the things that, like, because my previous last year's GMTK Game Jam submission of mine was also a puzzle game, so I've done this a few times now.
Joint temporal custody?
Yeah, that was the one. Yeah, so making a level and then realizing you can sort of like play with the structure of the level and just like change 1 or 2 things and then see how that solution is different. That's really, really good. I try to do that a lot because it sort of gives the player a familiarity, like, oh, I know what this level is going to do, and then because of the slight tweaks, the solution is different, and so they feel like they should know how to solve it, but they actually don't yet. And then they're gonna like try what worked last time, and then they'll fail, and then they'll be like, well, why did that not work? And then they'll go through the thought process you want them to go through to solve that.
Yeah, there we go. Like, that one took me a couple tries, but I got there eventually. Whip.
Yeah. And so now I have a slightly more difficult version of the previous one.
Yeah, I see.
Or at least more complicated looking.
That's totally fine. All right. So, what do you think? Good to move on to the next interview question?
Oh, yeah. What was particularly clever hack or shortcut? Yeah, that's a great question. What did I do? I could have done a lot more on the programming side. I could have done a lot more things keeping track of the grid better. Um, like in code, it's a lot more hackily done in the game than I would have um, preferably done if I had more time. Um, but you know, there's only so much time before you have to turn it in. So I sort of cobbled it together over a couple of different things. So a lot of the different like things in the environment, like the walls and the little spikes and things, they when they get instantiated, they tell the game manager where they are. And so the game manager's like, all right, cool, and then it'll handle all the collision and everything from there, which is, I feel like a weird way of doing it, but it worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with game jams, it's very much a like you can't argue with results. If what you have works, then there you go, cut and print.
Yeah, I was like, I could do this better, but I don't have time. Whatever. Also, something that I feel like this isn't much of a. I guess it's kind of a shortcut, but like all the sprites start out like are loaded into the game as pure white, so I can just change them on the fly. Just with the color of the sprite render, and Unity is just something that's super nice because if everything is just one solid color, you don't have to. Everything can just be white, and you can change it programmatically, and it's really handy and simple for that.
Absolutely. I will quickly call attention to a previous game of mine. If anyone who saw my Ludum Dare entry, they would know that I did the exact same thing here. Every single sprite in the game, perhaps no surprise, seeing the original
Yeah,
look of it up here, is just pure white, and then I just tint everything in the game using exactly the
yeah.
method you described. So I would absolutely say that that's a great tool to keep in mind. We've also got a comment here from KKaze. Did you do most of the programming before level design, or did you rotate between different aspects of making the game? It's a great question.
Yeah. So, um, I think in the past I had been doing a lot of. I had like programmed the whole game, and I had all the pieces, and then I would assemble all the pieces in all the interesting ways to make the levels that way. But for this one, I sort of broke it up into well, only 2 stages really. So there were like the level.
Oh, you cut out 1 second.
Whoops. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I still heard. So there was the level, and then what's after
Yeah.
that?
Sorry about that. I sort of split it up into 2 stages where I programmed all the levels, or I programmed the basic movement systems and all that, and then I built the levels before you got the laser. And then I was like, just to see if at the base of it would be somewhat interesting, which turned out to be the case. And so then I was like, all right, now I have to actually program the laser and toggling things on and off and doing that. And then after that was built, then I went in and made the levels that you're playing right now, where you're actually using the laser. So I kind of broke up the programming and level design that way. But I could have probably done it the other way, where I program everything, have like a little sandbox where you're messing around with ideas, and then build the levels all from there in one phase.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I can imagine like both methods have their advantages and disadvantages, right? Like,
yeah.
Again, I'm going to sort of pull out to quickly share the design document for my game. Just, I don't know if you do something similar, but when I'm making a game, I use just a simple Google Doc, and specifically for jam projects, I break things up into a multi-tier structure where I have a minimum viable product in mind. Then I have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and in this case, I even ended up with 4 tiers. Just the basic idea of like, this would be great. If I can at least make this, it'll be playable. If I can, tier 1 is like, okay, meat and potatoes. What are the absolute bare minimum basics that I think would be good for getting into the game? And then tier 2 is like, okay, let's get some veg on that plate. Let's have some something that's going to like round this out and make it a better experience. And then tier 3 and up is just anything that I really think like would be really cool, but like not at all necessary to the game. And then I even have a separate polish category where you can see I went kind of out of order and added in some of these small touches, even though some of these were pretty time consuming and not at all necessary for the game to function.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't until I saw your game being played, and I was like, wait, I didn't add screen shake to my game. I should have done that. Oh no! I was like, oh, it's fine. It'll be okay.
Absolutely.
But like that was just it's like those little there's a bunch of like little polished things I wish I'd obviously gotten around to do, but I was like, I think having a few more levels is a little bit preferable in this particular case, and so I wanted to prioritize making it feel like there was enough content to justify the game, and sort of explore the different consequences of this weird idea.
Mhm.
Your design documents look great. Mine are hardly documents.
Well, I think, again, as any longtime viewer of the channel will know, it's because I use auto hotkey, which basically just makes it super easy for me. If I just reopen this real quick, if the formatting looks nice, it's because let me just reset the zoom on this. If the formatting looks nice, it's because I took all of the common things like making things into different headers and bulleted lists, and I gave myself a drop-down menu that has all the most common things that I want in it. So I can take something
Oh,
and make it into a title. I can italicize. I can strike out. Everything is just, I press tilde, that gives me this menu, and then I just click on what I want, or I press a button from the list. So I want to take this heading 3 and make it into a heading 1. Boom, there we go. Yes, I know you can also press Control-Alt-1, but that's really awkward and hard to press, and most of the time I press it, it doesn't work. So for some reason, my hotkey works better than Google Docs' own integrated thing. So anyway, I love auto hotkey, and I mention it as often as possible. Lamophius is mentioning, I was worried about screen shake and sound when block hits the wall. Yeah, like you mentioned screen shake. I added screen shake into my game about an hour before the submission deadline. So it was very, very much a last minute thing for me.
yeah, I did that last time. I had the time, but for this one, I was really pressed for time. So when they had like you have 20 more minutes to submit, I was like, oh, thank goodness. Because I was right up against it, because I found some bugs right before I was ready to publish, which is wonderful.
Yep. Oh man, that's I was adding in the screen shake just after I added in the menu system, and I think it was in that last hour that I also realized, like, I made a game that has mouse control and the menu is controlled with keyboard and spacebar. Oops, I don't have time to change it.
Oh well. What's it gonna be?
Yeah.
So I will say this is the last level of the game. So
Ooh,
you're almost at the
okay.
finish line. I feel like I feel obligated to try to answer at least a few more of these questions. Anything needed to cut or change in order to finish? I had to cut. Well, let's see. I mean, obviously, there's when you're making a sort of puzzle game like this, there's so many different puzzle and level options. As soon as you add in a new kind of block or a new kind of tile that the player can walk on. So you can obviously like expand the possibility space exponentially by making more tiles or whatever. Congratulations.
Thank you. I just have to say really quickly, thinking critically about the way that everything you've taught me so far about, like, okay, I've taken damage, I probably need to strategically move before I do, like, that just clicked in my head. that is some Portal level of I know what to do that you got across there. That was excellent.
Yeah. I was actually thinking a lot of Portal when I was making this game, because Portal has that sort of a little bit of a tiered phase where like you have one portal gun, and then there's that big jump when you get the second one, and you have a lot more control. And so I was thinking about that a lot when I did the like that when the game is sort of split up between when you don't have the laser and when you do have the laser, and how you just have so much more control over what's going on. So that was I was like actively thinking about doing that, because that feels cool, and you're like, oh, I can look at all the cool things I can do. And these were the different puzzles that come out from that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to break it down. All right. Sorry, I interrupted your description of... Sorry, please continue.
Oh, yeah, so, I mean, yeah, there's like a bunch of different, a ton of different, puzzle options. I was like halfway through when I had my crappy looking functional prototype. I sent it off to a couple people and just be like, does this make any sense at all? Just to get a little feedback. As much playtesting as could be possibly done in 48 hours while making a game. And so one of my friends was like, hey, what if there's a tile that like swaps where the little healing tile and the spike tile is? And I was like, well, that's a great idea that I have no time to expand on, but that's obviously something that you could, put this into the game, and there's obviously a lot more puzzles that you can do with that. But in terms of like not ballooning out the scope, I was like, well, how many levels could I possibly make with only these very small set of options, and sort of carving out as much of that possibility space without expanding it as I could. So I didn't like. So those are like all the things that were sort of cut from the game in that way. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess the follow-up question to that is, do you have any plans for the game going forward, and do you like want to add some of those ideas in?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I said this last. I was thinking about this the last Game Jam game, and I ended up adding more stuff to that one. So I don't know. I feel a little less inclined to do so for this one, just because the individual levels for this they take me more time and effort than what I did for last year's Jam, where I was like cranking those out very quickly somehow. I don't know how I did it. But for these ones, I would like have an idea, and then I realized that it was either impossible or extremely easy, and so I was like, well, that's not a great puzzle. Okay, what's another weird consequence? Just trying to find those that weren't completely broken was a lot more difficult than I was anticipating for this project. I was like, I think this idea of you get hurt, blocks change in size, will create interesting puzzles. I think I wasn't terribly confident, but I think it panned out well enough at the end. But there's a lot of trial and error in terms of like, there's a lot of things that don't work with this setup that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
So I don't think I will, but I mean, I'm welcome to. If people want more levels, then I can certainly go back to this. I do like the idea. I think it's interesting, but yeah. So I don't know. For now, I'm pleased with what's happened.
Absolutely. All right.
You're doing your victory lap now.
I'm doing my best to get through the levels as quickly now that I remember the solutions as possible. But yeah, I think I'm gonna zoom back out to normal view so I can see everything again. Ah, yes. For you viewers, it looks all the same to me. For me, I can now actually see stuff on all three of my monitors. The reason that I had this, the whole window like crammed in the corner here, was just so I could get as close to the chat, which is on my third monitor, as possible. All right. But yeah, thank you so much for joining on the call and joining in the stream. And I
Thanks
look
so
forward
much.
to your next Game Jam project.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, likewise. Have a good evening.
All
Oh,
right.
actually,
You
wait, wait,
too.
wait. I forgot to give you the opportunity to do any plugs or anything that you'd like to do, any shoutouts.
Oh God, I don't know.
Okay. I'll give you some time to think about that, and if you want, you can also just drop a link in chat and I'll pull it up on the screen.
Um,
Um,
I mean, I guess this kind of feels implicit, but play and rate the game. I think it's fun. Let me know if you think otherwise, or if you agree. That's fine. Or my game from last year, or my game from the year before that, or any of the other things that are the weird ideas that are on my itch page. Check
yeah, there we go. So
it
in
out if you have the
particular,
time.
we have there's an interview that I did with you on joint temporal custody.
Yeah,
Let me just pull that up real quick if anyone is curious, because yeah, I had a lot of fun with that one as well.
yeah, and that game, I'm still shocked that that game got 28th out of all of them last year. That was incredible.
I was like, I saw, I was like, this is a great one. This is going to be top 20, top 100, like whatever for sure. And then I was like furious with Mark Brown's like, what are you talking about? How did this not make it into your video?
It's like it's in there for like 2 seconds or something. Like it's in there, but it's not one of like the 20 on the video. I was like,
Uh,
all right, it's technically in there. So now I'm like, fingers crossed, I get to be one of the top 20 that of Mark's selected games. So it's a tall order, but we'll see. Maybe it'll fingers crossed.
all right. Well, here's hoping everyone. Um, Make sure that you rate and review the game. Let's see if we can make it in this year.
Yes,
Um,
thank you so much.
but yeah, here we go. This was my look at this. This was my older stream setup. I guess my hair is roughly the same length. It's just my facial hair that I've really been letting go.
Yeah,
And we didn't have webcam back then for the other person on the call, but I had a slightly different format for everything. Anyway, yeah, it's there if you want to check it out to see last year's game. And was there anything else? Anything before I let you go?
uh, I don't think so. Thank you for doing the streams and all this. This is super fun. It's great to see
All right.
people playing the games because that's like the most fun part of the jam. Like you make this game, you slave over it for this set amount of time, and then you get to release it into the wild and watch people enjoy it, hopefully, or at least
Yeah.
get the experience that you want them to have out of it.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, it's the one thing about my efforts to do more streaming this year is that, like, I don't have the time to get my game out in front of people. So, I don't know. Here's hoping that if anyone does end up playing their game on stream and I can't see it, hopefully I can at least watch the VOD.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so thank you so much and have a good evening.
excellent. You too as well. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Okay.